What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here, and today I'm honored to be joined by filmmaker Frank Sun, the writer, director, and producer behind the short film Fabric, which is having its world premiere at the Tribeca Festival this year. Inspired by Frank's own experiences working in the fashion industry in New York, this film explores identity, ambition, performance, and the search for genuine human connection beneath the glamour of said industry. Frank, congratulations on the premiere, and thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thanks for that recap. I mean, I think we're done.
So, this is your second time at Tribeca. Your previous short, We Are Kings, premiered last year, and now you're back. What does it
That's right.
mean to come back to the festival with a very different story, but one that's so deeply personal to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy to be back at Tribeca. I had such a great experience there. And it's cool to have two films back to back because sometimes even as filmmaker, you're having been to Tribeca, you're still a little bit, it's like, oh, was that luck? Was that, did they actually like the film? Did I get in because of the block, or is it because I emailed the programmer or whatever? But it definitely has a little bit of more affirming effect for me to have two films back to back. And it's funny because I did write these two films around the same time, upon my reflection of my childhood for We Are Kings, and then for Fabric was my initial few years in New York City as a fashion photographer. And I was really just exploring similar feelings of belonging, and so there's a little bit of crossover between the two, where Kings was more through comedy, and this one's more through like subtle observations and based on a time that's a little bit closer to my current self than something that's a little bit farther away. Um, and and I also really wanted to try as a director to use a slightly different technique. Like Fabric, we shot with three cameras, and many times we had three camera operators shooting at the same time, and we were flying through some of the scenes because the actors were so incredible. B and Kate were just like phenomenal actors, and as they were in my previous film, but we had a lot more improvisation, and they just ran it. We did three different takes for each scene, cameras on both of them, and then we just plowed through it. And so this style was something I really wanted to try, and using handheld and feeling more documentary, and just sort of really pulling people into that world through like silence and through quiet conversations and like a more personal observation of the main character.
Wow, it's like you read all of my questions almost in that one response, but I'm still gonna make you dig a little bit deeper. So
Sure.
since you said that, there is
Yeah.
that point in the film where the visual language really shifted. We go from that, cinema verite style of the documentary feel to this almost like dreamlike atmosphere. So when you were
Mm.
doing that with the cameras, what were your conversations like with your cinematographer, Arthur Wu, when you were trying to balance this realism with something so emotionally subjective?
Hmm. I'm curious, where did you pick up the dreamlike vibes versus like the verite? Like, where did that shift for you?
Really, when they and I try not to go too spoiler, so I'm just going to say when
Sure.
they get to the club.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, so we really like for the first opening scene, we were really trying to capture Fashion Week um as sort of like a verite versus a spectacle, because I think when you think about New York Fashion Week, which I've photographed for like over 10 years of, you really think about the glamour and the things you see. Met Gala, for example, that just happened, right? You see the red carpet, you see all the people, the flashes and the models and the clothes, but actually from behind the scenes it's a mess. It's like any event, right? It's like before catering comes out, before people come out with a tray with the hors d'oeuvres, it's actually the kitchen is a mess. But as soon as you exit that door, you have this like very put together show. And such is life, such is like the way that how we leave our apartments and go outside. The things behind the curtain to me has always been really interesting. So we wanted to capture that scene in a very like reality, chaotic type of way. We wanted to show it in a way that feels like you're immersed in it. And even with sound design, which gigantic Peter Russell did an incredible job there. He built this sound world of like because we're just our shots are very close. But then what is outside of that? And just so the way that he mixed the sound together gave us this like much larger space that we don't see.
Mhm.
And even the showrunner and all the audio that's happening in the background. So I really wanted to build that world. And then when we get to the apartment, we specifically chose lenses that felt a little bit more dreamlike when they're by themselves, and even when they're at the pizza restaurant, like we sort of pull them out of this like fashion world that feels so visceral to stick them into this like other space that is like more almost in your head, as is the party feels like more you're more in the head of the main character. So that was something that Arthur and I talked about a lot, even like because we also went from multicam to single cam in the apartment, and then we went back to multicam in the pizza shop, and then we sort of stuck with multicam throughout. But the apartment allowed us to have a little bit more freedom with where we place the camera, so we were able to be more creative and get more inside their head versus like being more observational. So I think that's something that we discussed before we started the filming process.
And building on that, that idea of, getting into these characters' heads, the character of Mac, I mean, clearly, uh, based on what I read, Mac is you in many, many ways, right? So I'm
Yeah.
curious to know, someone who's so simultaneously inside of this world and yet distant from it, how much of this really did you draw from your own experience? Were there pieces you felt you pulled back on, or did you get to be creative with anything that was like, you know what? I'm just curious to know where those
Yeah,
lines
for
went.
sure. Well, so yeah, I mean, I think the feelings are definitely a lot of the feelings of like loneliness and yearning for connection during this time where everything is supposed to be like visceral and everything's supposed to be exciting, but then feeling quite the opposite during that time can be that's a lot of that pulled from me. The whole experience with models and all of that, those aren't based on my real life experiences. Those are just like stories that I've heard from other people or just like things that I've seen. And so I just kind of like wondered like what if, because it's what's interesting is like during this time it's like you meet a lot of people, a lot of beautiful people, and you want to like have a real conversation with them sometimes, but it's very hard to like actually talk to people during this time, and it's both like is there a reason to talk to this person? What do I get out of it? And a lot of times, the runway photographers, the people that shoot behind the scenes, we're not really that important. Like in a way, like the people that are important are the designers, the models, the stylist, but the photographers kind of get tossed around a little bit. And sometimes, even when you have made your way to some of the most exclusive events in the world, you still feel like you're treated like shit. And that then that's not, I'm not blaming it on the showrunner.
Right.
It's just that there's a lot of aggressive photographers too. And I think I try to
Mhm.
show that in a fair way in the opening scene, which is like there's these guys that are just trying to push their way and not behaving appropriately. But yeah, so like a lot of it is based on my observations, but the story itself is purely fictional, and the characters are just like a synthesis of people that I've observed, models that I've observed. Like there are models that I've like photographed in their year one, and then by year five, they're like a completely different person because like they've experienced this glamour and they've experienced this new life that's changed them somehow. And just kind of watching Vanessa in a way was just like you're sort of peeling back the layers of who she is on the surface to a very vulnerable moment, and then like getting back out of that party, becoming that shield which she puts up again. And so that's kind of like this character study that I wanted to do for a fictitious model that I think could be a real character in my head.
And so I want to ask, so now this is your second short film, and you're developing, I read We Are Kings into a feature.
That's right.
So as you continue to evolve as a filmmaker and making that transition from photographer, What would you say? This is the educational moment of the interview. What would you say is one best practice that you've learned that you want to carry forward with you into your future projects, and one learning curve you've tried to avoid repeating?
That's a really good question. I feel like I learned so much from every single project that I do, and that includes the commercial projects that I do. One thing that I did learn from even We Are Kings to Fabric was the process in which we made We Are Kings was very like, I need to make this film. I have the script. Let me raise money as soon as possible and get it done. It was very like surgical. It was very just like direct. And after I made We Are Kings, I was like, cool, now I want to make this fabric film, which I wrote around the same time, and I also very passionate about it. I decided instead of rushing, and this is like also a lot of it is thanks to my producer Hannah, who I met at Sundance many years ago, and we just have a lot of common friends. We were just hanging out and we're talking about films, and I told her about this project at this like nightclub we were at, and then we went forward to fast forward like a few weeks later. She's like, "Oh, let's chat," and then everything came together. My DP came together, production designer, the actor, everybody sort of came together organically. And I really wanted to shoot in December of 2024. But Hannah was like, "Well, why rush? Let's just find the right time." And then I waited till we had the right cast. B Vanessa, B Kate came through friends, and then it just felt right. So we made it after um, just taking our time and meditating and making script changes and making all the decisions. So like we just waited for all the right people to arrive to make the film. It's which is a very different process than We Are Kings, which is like let's go out there and find. It was very outbound versus inbound type of like creation. And I have to say I really loved the process of Fabric a lot more. But I do also like as a commercial director, I can go out and just get things done if we need to be the way that we did We Are Kings. But it felt like you're um, the motion which we did it was very different. But I love both films equally for different reasons. So that's something I took, and then something I wouldn't do. Um, um, I have to say that um, for Fabric, I may have we shot three cameras and we had so much footage, and I'm literally trying to edit this film by myself with like nine tracks overlapping itself. And I'd spent about 3.5, 4 months just like messing with these three camera. And then eventually I was like, I can't do it anymore. I've completely lost sight of what this film is. And so then I went to Kevin first, and Kevin helped me pull together a much better assembly. And then John and I worked endlessly on dialing in these three camera angles and trying to figure out. And so like the next time I take on a project where I have a lot of ambition going on with so many cameras, I would never try to edit it myself. It wasted a lot of time for me to just like sit on it. I mean, I learned about the footage, but I part of me wish I had just gone straight to an editor because that would have given us a lot more time to dial in the final process of the film.
Nice. Well, I know I have to let you get going in a minute, so I just have one last question
Yeah,
I want to ask.
for sure.
When
Yeah.
audiences leave Fabric, what is something you hope stays with them emotionally, visually, or just a lingering thought afterward?
hmm I hope people to really think about what they're willing to give up for something that is superficial. Because I think one of the things that I and continue to struggle is that when you're in the face of like beauty and glamour, we end up sacrificing a lot of things and becoming someone who are not, right? Just to fit in or just and that was something that where our kings also had thematically. And so like I would hope that people really like think about how they respect themselves and maybe not get sort of torn on this journey where they realize that they don't feel comfortable in a space that they're not and doing things that they didn't want to do. So I think yeah, so I think I hope people can walk away, feeling more introspective to sort of seek out a little bit more about who they are as themselves, and then sort of guard that as sort of a sacred place and not allow outside influence into it.
Nice. Well, Frank, thank you again so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Mike.
Congratulations on Fabric making its world premiere. Really beautifully observed film. It really shows, the underneath this world in a striking way. And in a season where we have The Devil Wears Prada 2, you're right there in that same
Oh, got very
beautiful
lucky.
thing.
Yeah,
For
thank you,
everyone
Mike.
watching
Thank you so
Fabric,
much.
yeah, for everyone watching Fabric premieres at Tribeca this year, please make sure you check out the film if you have the opportunity. We will have the social links for the film for Frank, the website for Tribeca to how to find this in the show notes below. As always, if you enjoyed this conversation, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel for more filmmaker interviews, festival coverage, spoiler-free reviews, award season conversations, and as always, remember, take a break and watch something new. Frank, have a great day.
Thank you, Mike.